God does not play dice. Einstein said it, and for nearly a century everyone got it wrong. You were taught it was a statement about religion, that Einstein was either defending or attacking the existence of God. But the truth is that this phrase was never about religion, and the truth they've been hiding for decades could completely change how you understand reality. On December 4th, 1926, Einstein wrote a private letter to his friend, Max Born. This letter remained hidden for decades. It wasn't published until 1971 in the book The Born-Einstein Letters. And what Einstein really said in that letter will shock you. He wrote in German, "Die Quantenmechanik ist sehr achtunggebietend, aber eine innere Stimme sagt mir, dass das doch nicht der wahre Jakob ist. Quantum mechanics is very impressive, but an inner voice tells me it's not the real McCoy." He then added, "Jedenfalls bin ich überzeugt, dass nicht würfelt." In any event, I am convinced that he does not play dice. Do you notice something strange? Einstein didn't say God. He said he. And this he had a very specific meaning for Einstein, a meaning that physics textbooks conveniently omit. Einstein called this he, der Alte, the old man. And it wasn't the God of the Bible. It wasn't the God of the Quran. It wasn't the God of any organized religion. It was the God of Spinoza. And if you don't know who Spinoza was, prepare yourself. Because what I'm about to reveal changes everything. In 1929, a rabbi named Ethan Gold sent a telegram to Einstein. He asked directly, "Do you believe in God?" Einstein responded, and the response was published. "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings." Spinoza was a 17th century philosopher who was excommunicated by the Jewish community for his radical ideas. He didn't believe in a personal God. He believed that God and nature were the same thing. God, or nature, he wrote, Deus sive natura, an impersonal force that governs everything through immutable laws, no miracles, no interventions, no exceptions. Einstein adored Spinoza. He once said, "How I love this noble man, more than I can express with words." And when Einstein said, "God does not play dice," he was talking about Spinoza's God, the laws of nature, the cosmic order. He was saying that the universe cannot be governed by chance. But why does this matter? Why is this distinction so crucial? Because in 1926, something was happening in physics that threatened to destroy everything Einstein believed in. Quantum mechanics was being born, and it brought with it an idea that Einstein found unacceptable. Max Born, the friend to whom Einstein wrote the letter, had just proposed something revolutionary. He said that the Schrödinger wave function didn't describe reality directly. It described probabilities as chances, possibilities. Until you measure a particle, it doesn't have a defined position. It's in a superposition of states. And when you measure it, the result is random. Random. That word was an insult to Einstein. He spent his life searching for the fundamental laws that govern the universe, deterministic laws, causes that produce predictable effects. And now Born was saying that at the bedrock of reality, there is no cause. There is luck. There are dice. Einstein could not accept this. And it wasn't for religious reasons in the conventional sense. It was for something much deeper. You see, Einstein was a determinist. He believed that everything in the universe follows causal laws, that every event has a prior cause, that if you could know all the initial conditions of the universe and all the laws of physics, you could predict everything that will happen. There is no real chance. What seems like chance is merely our ignorance of the causes. And here's what you need to understand. Einstein didn't believe in free will. He said explicitly, "I do not believe in free will." He said that we are as determined by the laws of nature as the moon is determined by gravity. Our thoughts, our choices, our feelings. Everything is the result of prior causes. There is no real choice. The sensation of choice is an illusion. When Einstein said that God does not play dice, He was defending determinism. He was saying that the apparent randomness of quantum mechanics couldn't be the whole story. There had to be hidden variables, hidden causes that we haven't yet discovered. Quantum mechanics had to be an incomplete theory. But what happened next is even more disturbing. Niels Bohr, the great Danish physicist, disagreed completely with Einstein. Bohr said that randomness wasn't a flaw in the theory. It was a feature of reality. The universe is fundamentally probabilistic. Absolute certainty is impossible. Nature is not deterministic. And Bohr gave a response that became famous. He said to Einstein, "Stop telling the universe what to do." It was a way of saying that Einstein was imposing his philosophical preferences on nature, instead of accepting what nature was revealing. Thus began one of the most important debates in the history of science: Einstein versus Bohr. Determinism versus probability. Order versus chance. And this debate lasted decades. It happened in conferences, in letters, in private conversations, and it was never fully resolved. Einstein never gave up. Until the end of his life, he tried to prove that quantum mechanics was wrong, or at least incomplete. In 1935, he published with Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen an article that became known as the EPR paradox. He tried to show that quantum mechanics had absurd consequences, that it implied what he called spooky action at a distance. The argument was ingenious. If two particles interact and then separate, quantum mechanics says that measuring one instantly affects the other, no matter the distance. They could be on opposite sides of the universe. The influence is instantaneous. Einstein found this absurd. It violated relativity. Nothing can travel faster than light. Information cannot be transmitted instantaneously, so quantum mechanics had to be wrong, or there were hidden variables that determined the results before the measurement. But here's the twist that no one tells you. Einstein was wrong, and right at the same time. In 1964, 3 decades after the EPR paradox, an Irish physicist named John Bell published a devastating theorem. He showed that if you want to maintain determinism, if you want hidden variables, you'll have to accept something even stranger. You'll have to accept that information can travel faster than light. So, we're going to have to accept that spooky action at a distance that Einstein so detested. Experiments have been done, repeatedly, in 1982, in 2015, in 2022. All of them confirmed quantum mechanics. All of them refuted the local hidden variables that Einstein hoped for. So, was Einstein wrong? Hold on. This is where the story gets really interesting. Because Einstein might have been wrong about the details, but he was right about something much bigger. You see, Einstein never said that quantum mechanics was wrong. He said it was incomplete, that there was something deeper underneath. And today, almost 100 years later, many physicists agree with him. Quantum mechanics works perfectly to make predictions, but no one really understands what it means. There are dozens of different interpretations. The Copenhagen interpretation says that the wave function collapses when we observe it. The many worlds interpretation says that all possibilities are realized in parallel universes. The Bohmian interpretation says there are hidden variables, but non-local. The relational interpretation says that reality depends on the observer. None are universally accepted. Physicists still disagree about what quantum mechanics tells us about the nature of reality. And that disagreement has lasted almost a century. And here is what you need to know. The phrase, "the old one does not play dice," was not a theological statement. It was a philosophical statement about the nature of causality. Einstein was asking, is the universe governed by deterministic laws or by pure chance? And that question still doesn't have a definitive answer. But there's something even deeper hidden in that phrase, something that almost no one mentions. Einstein spoke about the cosmic religious feeling. In 1930, he published an essay in the New York Times magazine called Religion and Science. In it, he described 3 stages of religious development. The first is based on fear. Primitive humans feared nature and created gods to appease it. The second is based on social morality. Religions create rules to keep society functioning. But the third stage is different. Einstein called it the cosmic religious feeling. He wrote, "The individual feels the futility of human desires and aims, and the sublimity and marvelous order which reveal themselves both in nature and in the world of thought. Individual existence impresses him as a sort of prison, and he wants to experience the universe as a single significant whole. This feeling," said Einstein, "is the strongest and noblest motive for scientific research. Are the serious scientific investigators are the only profoundly religious people." Do you understand what he was saying? To Einstein, science was a form of religion, a search for the hidden order of the universe, an attempt to understand the mind of the old man, not the personal deity of religions, but the Spinoza's deity, natural law, cosmic harmony. And quantum mechanics threatened that vision. If the universe is fundamentally random, there's no hidden order to discover. There's no mind of the universe to comprehend. There are just dice being thrown eternally. Einstein couldn't accept that, not because he was religious in the conventional sense, but because his whole life was dedicated to finding order in chaos, to finding the simple, elegant laws that govern everything. If those laws don't exist, his entire quest was in vain. And that brings us to something that is almost never discussed. The connection between Einstein's phrase and free will. If you believe in free will, you probably don't like Einstein's determinism. If everything is caused by prior events, how can we be responsible for our actions? How can we make genuine choices? But if you accept quantum mechanics as it is, you also have a problem. Randomness is not the same as freedom. If your decisions are the result of random quantum events in your brain, you're not choosing freely. You're being controlled by cosmic dice. Einstein saw this clearly. In a letter, he wrote, "You believe in the old one who plays dice, and I in complete law and order in a world which objectively exists." He was saying that both determinism and randomness eliminate free will in the traditional sense. The only difference is that in determinism, you're controlled by causes, and in randomness, you're controlled by chance. Here is the secret that Einstein discovered. The question of free will is an illusion created by our ignorance. We feel free because we don't know all the causes of our actions. But that feeling of freedom doesn't mean we are free. It's just a limitation of our perspective. Spinoza said the same thing 300 years before. He wrote, "The mind is determined to wish this or that by a cause, which has also been determined by another cause, and this again by another, and so on ad infinitum. There is no first cause. There is no moment when you choose freely. There is just an infinite chain of events causing other events." Why is this relevant today? Because neuroscience is reaching the same conclusions. Experiments show that our brains make decisions before we are consciously aware of them. The neuroscientist Benjamin Lambert discovered this in the 1980s. You think you're deciding, but your brain has already decided half a second earlier. This means that Einstein was right about something profound. Not about the details of quantum mechanics, but about the nature of causality, about the illusion of control, about how reality works on a level that our intuitions can't grasp. But wait. There's one more layer to this story that you need to know. In 1954, 2 years before he died, Einstein wrote his famous The Old One letter to the philosopher Eric Stone. This letter was sold at auction in 2018 for almost $3 million. And what Einstein wrote in it is astonishing. He said, "The word, the old one, is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses. The Bible a collection of honorable, but still primitive legends. It seems harsh. It seems like Einstein was an atheist, but in the same year, he wrote something else. He said, everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of man, and one in the face of which we with our modest powers must feel humble." How do we reconcile these two statements? Einstein rejected the deity of religions, but believed in a spirit in the laws of the universe? It seems contradictory, but it's not. It's exactly what Spinoza taught. The Old One is not a person. The Old One are the laws. The Old One is the order. The Old One is the mathematical structure of reality. When Einstein said, "The Old One doesn't play dice," he was saying that this order can't be based on chance. There have to be reasons, causes, laws. And here is the revelation that they don't want you to understand. The phrase, "the Old One doesn't play dice," isn't a statement about theology. It's a statement about epistemology, about what we can know, about whether the universe makes sense. If the universe is deterministic, we can, in principle, understand it completely. We can discover all the laws. We can predict everything. Perfect knowledge is possible, but if the universe is fundamentally random, there are absolute limits to knowledge. Some things we not only don't know, but cannot be known. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle isn't a technological limitation. It's a fundamental limitation of reality. Einstein hated this idea. He hated the idea that nature hides secrets we can never uncover. He hated the idea that some questions have no answer. And you? Can you accept that there are fundamentally unknowable things? Or do you, like Einstein, believe that every question has an answer, even if we haven't found it yet? Let's talk now about what happened with the Einstein-Bohr debate, because the story didn't end with their deaths. In 1982, the French physicist Alain Aspect performed experiments that directly tested Bell's ideas. The results were clear. Quantum mechanics was right. Einstein's local hidden variables were wrong. But that doesn't mean Einstein lost completely. Because in 2022, 3 physicists won the Nobel Prize for experiments. That confirmed quantum entanglement. John Clauser, Alain Aspect, and Anton Zeilinger proved that particles can be connected in ways that defy our intuition. And here's what almost no one mentions. These experiments proved that Einstein was wrong about the hidden variables, but they also proved that he was right about spooky action at a distance. Entangled particles really do behave as if they instantaneously know what happens to each other, even separated by astronomical distances. This is real. This isn't interpretation. This is experimental fact, confirmed multiple times. And what does this mean for the phrase, "the old one doesn't play dice"? It means that the question is deeper than Einstein imagined. It's not just about determinism versus randomness. It's about the very nature of reality, about whether there is an objective world out there, independent of our observations. Some physicists today, they believe that there isn't. They believe that reality is created by the act of observation, that there is no world before it is observed, that we are participants, not spectators. Other physicists believe that there is an objective world, that quantum mechanics is just a prediction tool, not a complete description of reality, that Einstein was right. To insist that there is something more. Before we continue, let me tell you one last thing Einstein said in a letter to his longtime friend Michael Bell. Einstein wrote, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." He was talking about relativity, about how time is different for observers in relative motion. But he was also talking about something deeper, about how our perception of time might be fundamentally wrong if past, present, and future are equally real, as relativity suggests. Then the future already exists. It's already there. We just haven't arrived at it yet. And if the future already exists, the universe is deterministic. In an even deeper sense than Einstein imagined, some physicists call this the block universe, a universe where all moments in time exist simultaneously, like a movie already recorded. We just experience, one frame at a time. If this is true, the old one really doesn't play dice because the dice have already been thrown. The results are already there. We just don't see them yet. But here's the question I leave you with. If the future already exists, if everything is already determined, Why bother with anything? Why try to improve? Why make any effort? Einstein had an answer. He said that even without free will in the traditional sense, we still live as if we do. Our decisions, even if determined, are still ours. Our efforts, even if inevitable, still matter. The illusion of choice is functional, even if it isn't real. Spinoza said something similar. He said that freedom isn't the absence of determination, but the awareness of it. When you understand why you act the way you do, you gain a form of freedom, not the freedom to change, but the freedom to accept, the freedom to stop fighting against the inevitable. You've just discovered what Einstein really meant when he said that the old one doesn't play dice. It wasn't theology, it was philosophy of science. It was a vision about the nature of reality, of causality, of knowledge. And it was a defense of something he valued above all else, the belief that the universe makes sense, that there is a hidden order waiting to be discovered, that the search for knowledge is worth the effort. Every video like this requires studying original letters, comparing translations, confronting academic interpretations. The super thanks down below isn't just support. It's you saying that you prefer the complete truth to the simplified version, that you choose to understand instead of just repeating. That you're part of those who seek the hidden meaning. Let's now talk about why this information test was suppressed for so long, and this is where the story gets really interesting. Einstein's letters to Max Born were only published in 1971, almost 50 years after they were written. Why the delay? Why keep scientific correspondence secret for so long? There are several theories. One is that Born and Einstein were friends, and Born wanted to protect Einstein's reputation. Many of Einstein's arguments against quantum mechanics were proven wrong. Publishing the letters could make Einstein seem like a stubborn old man, resisting progress. Another theory is more interesting. The letters reveal an Einstein very different from the public image. They show a man who questioned the scientific consensus, who distrusted the accepted interpretations, who insisted that there was something wrong with theories that worked perfectly. This Einstein is dangerous because he shows that it's possible to disagree with the majority and still be a genius. It shows that consensus isn't truth. It shows that questioning is valuable, even when you're wrong. Official science doesn't like that message. It prefers to present Einstein as a prophet who was always right, who had genius insights that were later confirmed, that he was near infallible. But what about Einstein, the fallible one? The questioning Einstein, the resistant Einstein? That's what's most useful to you, because it gives you permission to question too, to not accept everything you're told, to think for yourself. And here's what you need to take away from this video. The phrase, "the old one doesn't play dice," doesn't mean what you thought it did. It's not a statement about religion. It's a statement about the nature of the universe. It's a cry of protest against randomness. It's a defense of the idea that everything has a reason, a cause. Einstein might have been wrong about the details, but the question he raised hasn't been answered yet. Quantum mechanics works, but we don't know why. Particles behave probabilistically, but we don't know if that's fundamental, or if there's something deeper going on at the bedrock of reality. And as long as we don't know, Einstein's question remains: does the universe play dice or not? Think about that. The greatest physicist of the 20th century spent the last 30 years of his life insisting that something was wrong with accepted physics, and he was ridiculed for it, called outdated, just unable to accept the new. But Einstein never gave up, because he believed in something bigger than his ego. He believed in truth. He believed that the universe makes sense, even when we can't understand it. He believed it's worth continuing to ask, even when the answers don't come. And you? Are you going to accept what you're told? Or will you, like Einstein, keep asking? And there's one more thing I need to tell you before we finish. Einstein died in 1955 without seeing the resolution of the debate. He never knew about Bell's experiments, never knew about Aspect's experiments. He never knew that some of his predictions were wrong, and he never knew that others were right in ways he couldn't have imagined. If Einstein were alive today, what would he say? Some think he'd finally accept quantum mechanics. Others think he'd continue questioning, that he'd find new objections, that he'd never stop seeking a deeper theory. I think he'd keep asking, because that's who Einstein was. Not someone who accepted answers, but someone who asked questions. And the question, does the old man play dice? Still hasn't been answered. Comment down below. Do you think the universe is deterministic or random? Do you think Einstein was right to question quantum mechanics? I want to know your opinion, and I'll be responding to comments in the first couple of hours.